Hi Anthony's cuckoo. Welcome to my channel, talking about all things TAPIF, which is a teaching English assistant program in France. I'm Alexis, and here we go. So today I want to talk to you about finding a place to live in France. Obviously I found one. Everyone else I'm personally friends with, at least here, has as well, so it is possible. And I'm also going to briefly touch upon opening a bank account, because it is very important, and besides finding a place to live, opening the bank account is the other ASAP project to do when you come here on the program. So and all of the paperwork and information you receive before you get in, Natalie, who kind of is in charge of the program in the States, she and other handbook, everything like that, they all recommend to not find a place ahead of time. I don't know anyone actually personally who found a place ahead of time, and so I decided not to. It was kind of funny telling people that I'm like, yeah, I'm moving to France, and they're like, oh cool, where are you living? I was like, well, I'm gonna be in Avignon. I'm not gonna get a place until I move there. Definitely gets reactions out of people because everyone's like, you don't know where you're living yet? And I'm like, no, I have an Airbnb. So I think I got it for a little under 2 weeks, maybe 9 or so days. So I was like, I have an Airbnb, but I don't have forever housing yet. I haven't found my forever home in France. So it freaks people out. It was freaking me out. It was one of those things that I was like, I'm going to just internally keep it in my brain and then externally be a calm, cool pool of water, because I don't want to freak out myself. That's how freaked out I was. I can't talk. So that being said, I didn't have anything planned. I got an Airbnb that I actually had probably booked back in April or so. I think I bought my ticket really not too long, maybe May, within a month and a half of getting into the program, because even though they said don't do it because the whole visa stuff like that, I was like, no, I'm gonna buy this. It was good. I was able to fly from Newark, which is a pretty big airport in New Jersey, and I got a flight to Paris for about $250. So I was like, well, I don't really want to pass that up. It was one way, just to clarify, I forgot to say that. So therefore I was like, I'm just gonna handle everything now. And honestly, $250, while I didn't want to lose it, I was like, if things happen, my visa gets screwed, anything like that, and if I have to cancel my flight, it's not the worst chunk of change to eat. So that's kind of how I saw it. Therefore, bought my plane ticket, got an Airbnb. I just thought that was easier. We don't really actually have a lot of hostels in Avignon, if there are any. I haven't seen any, and I don't think we actually have one. Maybe there's one, if anything. So I wanted to be a hostel. I wanted to get an Airbnb. I did see other people later on commenting and being like, hey, who wants to Airbnb together? And I was like, I already got mine, and plus, no thank you. I love the people that are doing the program here, but I have tried, I have coordinated with large groups of people in the past, and it is not something I was interested in doing, especially with a bunch of strangers. So therefore, decided to do that. Take care of me and myself in my lovely Airbnb. Alright, so cut to, I flew from Newark I think my flight was on the 17th. I arrived in Paris on the 18th, because the flights to anything going to Paris is so much cheaper than any of the other airports, typically in France. So I flew to Paris, stayed a night in a hotel there, just did one single night, and then I took the train. I think it was from Avignon. I think that's where the TGV station is that goes to Avignon. So I went to the train station the next day, took the TGV down to Avignon. Really fortunate there is a TGV stop. That's awesome. If you're not familiar, it's the high-speed train that I have, and really it is fast. I made it here in under 3 hours for sure. So I think it's between 2 and 3. Took that. You do have to get into the city center, so I just took a quick, it's called the Navette train from the TGV center into Avignon Centre. So that was nice, really quick ride, and then actually I just walked. Avignon is really tiny. When I looked at the map, I was like, oh god, I'm gonna have to walk a while, and I was like, oh, okay, this is it. Perfect. So made it to my Airbnb. really lovely. Love Sylvie, my Airbnb woman, her dog Naiska, praise be. They're people. Naiska, the dog, was like my only best friend, and really my only friend for like the first 2 weeks of being here, so she will forever stay part of my heart. I still see her around the neighborhood, and I will happily shout out to her whenever I see her walking around or by her mom's work, because I me and my friend go to a coffee shop near there, and she just kind of wanders in the street. You'll see that. The dogs are really well behaved here, so people kind of just like let them out if they work in a nearby business. Sorry, I digress. I was staying at Airbnb, everything was fine. I think I had like a day or two, because I got here, our program starts on October 1st. I got here around September, like 19th. Is when I officially made it to Avignon. So I really had like a little bit of time at least, and it was really stressful. It was really, really hard, honestly. When I was in Paris, I was getting plagued with like, this was a bad choice, I regret this, I'm lonely, I miss my mom, I miss my parents, I miss my friends, why did I leave my job? It was all of these just emotions. And then when I got here, it wasn't any better at all. I just felt very alone, and not even to the point where like I just didn't even want to try to not be alone. Yeah, it was hard. It was a dark phase, but it's fine. It got a lot better, at least for me, so I promise them that. Anyway, so I started looking. Before I'd come here, I had spoken with a previous assistant from Avignon, Ian, and he had told me that he used a protege, so that is what I used. And honestly, that's really all I used. The Bon Coin is essentially Craigslist here. You can also use that, and I certainly looked at it, but I liked the interface on a Protégé better. Also, so what you do is you go on a Protégé, create a profile, and people can actually reach out to you too, and just to be like roommates. So therefore, you can kind of join forces with people, and then look for apartments together and stuff like that. I didn't do that. I didn't want to do that, so I decided against it. And what I did was I just like straight went and looked at apartments, and went kind of in for the kill that way. That sounds awful. Anyway though, so what I did was I just started emailing people. I went on, looked at places. There are two kind of different types of memberships, subscriptions I suppose, on a Protégé. One is free, and then one you have to pay a certain amount. I kind of decided, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it free, see as much as I can, and see if they're like who I want to, what apartments I want to apply for. And then if I'm really finding a lot that I have to pay for the subscription, because there's certain levels and you can only see so much, or some of the sellers are on, like you can only view their stuff if you pay. So I just decided to kind of wait and see how it was going. Towards the end, I was definitely considering paying more, but it is kind of a time crunch, and then I ended up being like, let me just work with what I have. So I started contacting people. It was very nice, honestly. Like, more so than not, I got responses. And again, sorry, disclaimer for all of my videos here, in case I forget to say them. This is for me. This is my situation, where I am, Avignon specifically. Like, someone else in Avignon would be having a totally different experience, but someone in a different city entirely, like Carcassonne, could be having a completely different experience. Therefore, it really can change no matter what. So for me, I actually really heard back from most people, and I was making appointments and everything like that to meet people. A few times I would comment about that apartment, and they would tell me, I'd get replies saying like, oh, that's no longer available, but I have another place I want you to look at. Are you down for that? So that was kind of nice, and another option. And usually I did. I went, one time I showed up and I was like, this looks a lot different than the photo. And he was like, oh yes, this is a different place. I'm like, a little heads up would have been nice. It was very close to the neighborhood. So I was like, this doesn't seem exactly like the right place, but I was brand new to the city, so I didn't know. And I went to look at every place by myself, which normally I have to say I would not do, but it was a different situation here. So the first place I looked at was actually out of the city center. In Avignon, you have Intramuros, which is in the walls of the city. And then you have the rest of Avignon, the it's outside. So when I first was looking at it, I just kind of assumed, I think honestly, that I wouldn't be able to afford city center. Therefore I started looking out, and I was also trying to see if I should find something closer to my job or something in the city center. And the first place I looked at was outside of the walls. It was like a 20-30 minute walk outside from the walls of the city. And I looked at it, I really liked the woman, and I have to admit, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit because it was the first place, and I was like, I think I need to decide, like I need to know. I think I looked at the place, like, I arrived on Friday, and I looked at the place like Saturday or Sunday, so it was a pretty quick turnaround time. And it was okay. I wasn't like, this is my dream location. I also didn't love the neighborhood, but I asked the woman, I was like, do you feel safe here? There were roommates, so at least I was like, there's that. And like, it is closer to my job. So it's kind of something for me to think about. I told the woman initially that I did want it, and then I went back home and kind of like worked on the computer, emailing people and checking things out. So I think about a day later after I committed, I told her, I'm like, I'm sorry, I thought about it more, I spoke with my parents, and I really just think I should be in the city center. Because I thought about this, I was like, would I rather be working? Because also, you know, we only work 12 hours a week. So like, do I rather spend, you know, have a really short commute to my job when I'm only working 12 hours a week? Or would I rather live in the city center because that's where I'm spending the majority of the hours during my week, and then have to kind of go further for my job? And the being city center kind of won out. I was like, where am I going to be happier? I'm going to be happier in the city center. And I'm glad I chose that actually, because I found out really everyone else did the same thing. Everyone else I know lives in the city center unless they live in the further out towns that are like completely further, you know, farther away. For me, you know, it's a 30 minute bus ride, and it's still considered Avignon, like centre. So in most ways where I'm working, so I definitely made the right choice. I'm very happy about that. Altogether, I think I looked at about 6 or so places. Most of them were 2 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms, and there was one place I really liked, and it was with actually a guy, and I was like, oh, I've never heard a guy roommate before, that'd be interesting. But I looked at it, he was really nice, and it was a really great location, but it was a little bit out of my price range, and that's what I kind of told him. I was like, okay, I'll let you know, like, tomorrow. I'm looking at some more places, I'm not sure. So I looked at a couple more places, had basically narrowed down what I wanted to do. During this time, my lovely Airbnb lady, Sylvie, told me that she had some friends that had a studio. It was really great, everything was included. She's like, okay, I'll talk to them. She got back to me and she told me the price, and I was like, oh, it's out of my range. I was like, I'm not making a lot of money here, so that's kind of out of the range for me, but thank you. Q2, like 2 days after, I think she told me, she was like, okay, so just so you know, I was talking to them more, and they want somebody to tutor their son, so they're thinking that if you tutor him, therefore you can kind of pay less for the apartment, and it's a studio, and which was ideally what I had wanted to do originally. I actually had wanted a studio, so I was like, oh, that'd be great, like let me go meet them. It's literally around the corner from where she lived, so I met the mother, and she brought me. I met the father and the son, and the family was great. I came back the following day to like do a kind of run-through tutor session with the boy to see if we were compatible and if it was something that could work out and if he enjoyed it, and it was great. I love him. He's so wonderful. He makes me want to have kids. Well, honestly, all the children here make me want to have kids, which is not something I thought was going to happen. I thought it was going to be a further repellent for them, so that was a bit of a shock. But he was great, and it kind of worked out, and that's where I ended up living. So it actually wasn't even any of the protege things. Which is also honestly why I wanted to do an Airbnb, because I was kind of hoping I would be like semi-adopted by my Airbnb person, which didn't happen immediately, but I think she warmed up to me, saw my helplessness, and therefore adopted me and really helped me out, and I'm so grateful because I love the family. They're really wonderful. The apartment is great. I will clean it a bit more one day and then give a little like studio tour. Why I wanted a studio? I want a studio. I am in 27. No offense, because I love the people doing this program. I really do, and I love all my Avignon people. I'm a little bit older, and I've had roommates, you know, for the past 4 years, and I've had some really wonderful roommates. Like, some are my best friends, and I would say I still like heavily talk to half of them, and the other half I heavily hate. So, therefore, I knew it could go either way. And I was like, if I have to have roommates, I'll have roommates. It'll be fine, and honestly, it'll probably be good because it's a good way to get me out and doing things and a person to do stuff with that you're guaranteed to have. But I also know that it can go really wrong. And I am just older. I kind of was ready to be like alone for a little bit, to be honest, and not have to worry about sharing things and handling things, especially when this was already such a bit of a shock for me. And so I was really happy when this studio opened up, because I actually didn't even look at any studios myself. They didn't have any on a Pataget, of course. And then it took me a while to figure out on the Bon Coin how to look that up. Plus, when I like filter through it, because the filtering options on the Bon Coin confuse me way more than on a Pataget. So another reason why I like a Pataget. And plus, when I was able to find studios to kind of look at online, the pricing schemes were a little bit different. They were like, everything's included, but this is not included and you're going to have to handle that. And I did not want to have to worry about like setting up electricity or cable or any of those things. Like, to me, those are really big pains in the United States. I did not want to deal with the nuisance, any foreign language, any foreign country. So I was like, God, keep it away. I honestly would rather have roommates than have to deal with, France's version of Comcast. So, anyway, it worked out really well. I don't know anybody who had too much trouble. By the time we had our first day of orientation, everyone I knew was at least like about to close on a place if they hadn't already. I think I had one friend who was signing the lease that day, and everyone else I had run across was good to go. I definitely know that it's not the case everywhere, and I do want to warn people that I've seen a lot of posts in the TAPIF Facebook groups that Paris and the surrounding areas and Versailles and that those places are way more of a show. So really think about that. Think if that is something that you want to deal with and if you want to handle it. And even there were posts about some people securing housing ahead of time and then having their landlords cancel on them because they found someone who could commit longer or do something like that. Because we're not like super ideal. We need a furnished place, meublé, and it's only for 7-8 months. Therefore, it's not really like a huge benefit for most landlords. Honestly, I was really shocked at how many options I had here to look at. The good thing about Avignon is that it is like a school area, so a lot of places I think are used to renting out apartments for the school year, which was basically what we were doing. So essentially, I think that helped a lot, and if you are in school areas, people probably will be more understanding of that. But if you're in smaller villages, you're definitely going to have less options. If you are in primary school, you will absolutely have to look for a place yourself. I didn't notice that ahead of time, but I guess it's just that high schools are the only ones that potentially can give you housing. If you do primary school, definitely you will not have housing. Primary schools are so bare bones anyway, so definitely wouldn't be a thing. But high schools are the only places that you might find housing. And I do actually know a decent amount of people whose high schools provided them housing for either free or for a really tiny amount, like €200 a month, stuff like that. And I think even less for some people. So it's a real hit or miss. But do know going in that it can be easy, it cannot be easy. As always, check with people who've been there before you. Ask previous assistants in your region, in your town, what they had to do, what they went through. Because even they might say like, oh, like Jean-Pierre, that's the most French name ever. Jean-Pierre, he was my landlord last year and I loved him. Like, Sophie, she's great. Like, she would actually probably love another assistant to live here. Let me put you in contact with her. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask, because usually people are really ready, more than happy to hook you up. If it is 2019 to 2020 program and you are coming to Avignon and you are intrigued by the idea of a studio apartment or something like that, let me know. Feel free to contact me because leave a comment below and say like, hey Lex, I'd love if you could put me in contact with your people. I will say I'm not CAF eligible, so the CAF will not be one of my videos, and that was fine. I was honestly fine with that. I don't think I'm paying anything too bad, and yeah, it just didn't work out that way. So, warning there though. But yeah, feel free to contact me. Always ask around for people. So I will say I started on the 19th for looking for a place, and in all the, like, I started on, well, I arrived on a Friday. By the following Friday, I had a place to live, I think. That was about that. Yeah, it was about the following Friday. It took about like a week, maybe, or so, for me to find a place. And honestly, I could have committed before then, but I had a good feeling about the studio, so I kind of held off a little bit, and that was how well it worked out and everything like that. Now up to the, and I wish I could say more like warnings or anything like that to do with looking at apartments, but I honestly can't think of anything. I had a really easy going process, but if you have any questions, feel free to comment below and I'll happily answer them if I'm leaving anything out. So another, like, number 2, after you find a place to live here, what you want to do is you want to open up a bank account. Honestly, I would recommend going to, before you find a place, as long as things are looking good, go to a bank. I went to the BNP Paribas, or BNP Paribas, over by the Marché des Halles in Avignon, so city center Intramuros, and that's where I opened up my account. That is where Ian, the previous assistant, told me to go, and I was like, done and done. Obviously, that is where I would decide to go. So, in France, you need appointments to open up accounts. So really, whenever you can, I would recommend, especially if you've already started looking, go to the bank and set up an appointment to open an account, because you do have to have one. I think set up an appointment on Monday, and then was able to, didn't get my appointment till that Friday. So I think I either went, I went Tuesday, because they're not open on Mondays, of course. So I went on Tuesday, and then I got an appointment for that Friday. But really, like, that's a long time. So I had my RIB and everything else to go. RIB is like the direct deposit form that you have to give jobs when you're here. So I had that ready to go by the time orientation hit. Not everybody did. A lot of people did, but not everyone did. So don't freak out if you don't have your RIB by the time orientation happens. If you have it, that's awesome. That's great. But you have, I think, a little bit longer at least. You have like the following week to get it to them so that you get paid in time. And it's really just depends when you get paid. So if the later your RIB gets put in, the later you will get paid. That's really it. You're not going to be like penalized or anything like that, but it's just more of a nuisance kind of thing. I think we kind of get scared about some things. So anyway, I made an appointment on the Tuesday, and I had my appointment on the Friday. Again, I got really lucky with people just being so kind to me, especially the wonderful women who have come to my aid here. My Airbnb woman, and then the family's house who I live in. Oh, so my studio, by the way, is in their house essentially. It's on the first floor, or the ground floor. They actually have 2 studios that they have, and then the family lives on the upper levels. So it's kind of nice because I'm in a studio, like, completely alone, where it's just me, but I'm still connected to them. So when I want to go teach the boy, I just pop it out one door and go up to their house, or I have my own entryway that I can go into. And I like it too, because that means I'm not like fully alone, and it makes me feel a little bit safer that there's people here and I'm not just like abandoned or any of that. But that being said, my lovely, lovely, lovely lady who's also named Sylvie, so my 2 Sylvies that are my angels here, she came with me to the bank when I opened up my bank account, because what you're going to want to bring after you've made the appointment and are ready to go, I need to bring copies of my passport, copies of my visa, copies, I don't think I had copies of my license. I brought my license just in case, but I don't think they needed it. I needed to provide my social security number. They asked for my tax identification number, which, I'm going to be honest, I don't think you have in the United States. I pulled up my W-4s. I always get W-4s confused, but I pulled up my, like, tax receipts, essentially, like, from previous years, and the only identification number, which I knew existed, was EIN, which is a business tax number, because I've had to used that for my companies in the past when I was handling heavy duty paperwork. And I know companies have a tax identification number, but I don't think people do. I really think our social security number, at least in the US, is kind of like our end all be all. So they asked me for that and I was like, I don't have that, I'm sorry. I was like, I have my tax, I've done taxes, but that's it. So I had to fill out more information, apparently to our lovely Commander-in-Chief, has instituted more forms and stuff like that. So through the grapevine, I don't know, like allegedly, we do have to fill out more information than we used to have to in the past. So I think some banks are refusing actually to open up accounts for US citizens because it's more of a hassle for them now. So there were some people who may deny you. Mine didn't. They were very, very nice, and I actually know quite a few other people who went to that specific bank as well. But I digress. I gave them that information. You have to also provide proof of living there. So Sophie had written me a note, and she also came and she provided, I think, her license or her like identification card, as well as a water bill or something like that. So if your landlord can't come with you, I would highly recommend one, having a attestation like d'Avignon, like a letter saying that you live with them, or your lease, something like that. In addition, ask if you could have a copy of their identification card or license, as well as like a copy of their water bill, electricity bill, something that proves where you're living. So that was all the information they asked. I had to complete other paperwork. The woman I had, Natalie, she was really, really nice, very lovely. I had good interaction with her. I will say she said some things I don't fully understand, and I'm still slightly concerned that I agreed to things that I don't know. But anyway, I had to sign stuff. I did have to tell them, I gave them my contract, of course. I always forget the name for it, but our contract for the schools, like our TAPIF contract that says these are the schools you're at, that one pager. So I gave that in as well and told her how much I was making, because she did want to know the salary. I think it kind of just depends on how much they set the standards, because they set a standard that says like you can only put this much in the bank account this month, and you can only take out this much this month. So you can adjust that. You definitely can with the bank or on the BNP app, but that was what she was asking me some things for. And then she told me to come back, that I would get a call telling me when my debit card was ready. And she asked if I wanted checks as well, and I said yes, please. So I asked for like 3 ribs, and it actually comes out on one single sheet of paper, and then there's like these tiny little ribs. So that was really great. I'd highly recommend doing that. Don't forget to ask them, because they may not give it to you if you don't ask. I was then informed that they'll actually get a phone call telling you when your debit card is ready to pick up. So just go, you can pick it up. Mine took about, I want to say like close to 3 weeks before I could get it. Before they gave me a call, because I picked mine up right before we went away to fall break. So I think it took about 3 weeks for me to get, and again, it can really, really vary. They also asked if I wanted checks, so I said yes, because I always say yes when in doubt. And so I said yes, and I got a call to pick those up about like a month and a half after probably getting it, because I think I got a call but that was available about 2 weeks after I picked up my debit card. So I got those all together. And then you also get in the mail, you'll get your PIN number. So your PIN, if you want to go you'll have to go and kind of speak to people. You have to hand it in a sheet that says like, yes, I got my debit card once they give it to you. But then you have to activate your card at like the ATM that's at the bank using that PIN that they've given you. And you'll also get another thing in the mail that has a like code for logging online and logging into your whatever it's called, app, kind of your account, like username and the passwords and all that and stuff like that. So that is how that is all handled. And again, this is just BNP. I cannot speak to like Société Générale. I can't think of any other places right now, banks that are in France, but any of those. So that's how that is kind of handled. I really think that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, but please, if you guys have anything else you want me to specifically dive into, please comment below, because I can make videos for that next versus in the timeline I was imagining. But again, if you liked what I've said, if it's been helpful to you, please like and subscribe below. I'd appreciate it. Whenever I feel like I've mentioned anything interesting, I will put links as well below. So I'll put a link to a partage just so you can know exactly where to go. But that's really all I kind of mentioned today besides BNP, which is very kind of easy to find and navigate. So thank you for watching and all of that fun stuff. I hope this is helpful to you. So be